Guys, we're back for Cellular Fitness episode number 2. David Turnbull here, Dr. Nick, and we're going to be talking about
intermittent fasting today. So everybody always asks, what is intermittent fasting? How long should I do it? Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Should men do it? Should women do it? What is the answers? So hopefully we can answer a few questions or give you at least some more information on the topic.
Well, why don't you walk us through your experience, because it was sort of like a challenge, right? Like, it's such a good story, so if you wouldn't mind just sharing.
So I've tried almost every single diet out there that I could think of. And when I would do different diets, I'd run blood labs and just see how it affects me and my hormones and everything like that. My training is from like more bodybuilding world, and everything that I was taught for most of my life is constantly eating, snacking, and a certain portion size and everything. And the last thing I've ever tried was intermittent fasting because I was so against the idea. I'm like, no, that's stupid. It's not going to work. How are you going to gain muscle? You're just destroying your metabolism by doing that. And I was reading a few books of a few athletes that were doing intermittent fasting, and around the same time I also met Dr. Nick, and he was doing intermittent fasting, and he was the first real life person that I met other than books and other stuff, and he was educating me more, and I was like, wow, he's fit and he does intermittent fasting just like these other athletes. I was like, okay, tell me more. And then so I started doing it. And I've been doing it for a couple of years now, years I think, maybe 2-3 years, and it's been actually my most favorite diet. It's just, I have constant energy all day. I don't have to, I'm very busy, so I don't have to stop to think about, oh, I need to take a lunch, I need to have breakfast, I need to do that. And how I have mine personally structured is it's at the end of my working day, so then I can actually relax and enjoy instead of rushing and just eating. And I think that has a huge impact on my stress too, because like I imagine that if you're quickly eating toast over the sink or you're eating in the car as you go to work, you're stressed and your body's interpreting everything, I believe, as a stress. It's like, oh, maybe I have to save this because maybe he's traveling to something, maybe he's going to go into a fight. Or I don't know, but I feel a lot better.
And because that's a huge mind shift, right? It's a huge mind shift to go from eating every couple hours, got to maintain muscle mass, otherwise you're going to lose it, and metabolism's going to drop. Like, what were some of like the first awarenesses that you had about doing this? I mean, you mentioned just like it's great to be able to just relax and eat, but what are some of those other things?
So throughout the experiment over the last couple of years, I was still constantly a little bit skeptical too.
Which is healthy. You need that, right?
Because I'm like, I don't know, it sounds too good to be true. And if everything is too good to be true, usually it is. But I constantly kept checking to see, and the most recent check was last year actually with you, to see. So I would do my workouts, for example, first thing in the morning, and then I wouldn't eat. So maybe my workout is like 6 a.m. And then I wouldn't eat till 6 p.m. at nighttime. So I'd go all that day just having water. And you recommended some essential amino acids. And then so one day I did you're like, okay, you should try a 4-day fast. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, okay, I'll try it. I don't have to have challenge. Anybody challenges me on things. I like challenging. So I did that, but every day I came into here to check and see if I wasn't, because I said my main concern is I don't want to lose any hard-earned muscle, because muscle takes a long time to put on. And I'm like, I'm not spending like 1 week in this 4-day fast and destroying a year's worth of muscle. So I tried it out, and
I challenged him. I said, listen, if you keep working out every day, I bet you're going to be putting on muscle.
So, and I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I was like, I kind of believed him, but I was like, I'm up for it. And then the other thing is like, well, my performance might go down. So during that time, there was we were having a push-up challenge. How many push-ups can you do?
That's right.
I think it was 100 push-ups a day you had to do, and then I was timing it. So at the beginning,
and you were doing chin-ups as well, weren't you?
Yeah. So and I did chin-ups as well, but I monitored mostly the push-ups, just time-wise.
Right.
So the time was, I think, to do 100 push-ups for me when I was efficient was 3 minutes. It took back to back, just nonstop, and then by the end of the 4 days, because I did it every day just to monitor and see my performance, and that's after a full workout still, an hour workout, on the fourth day, I think I got 90 push-ups in 3 minutes. But I couldn't tell if it was because I was doing push-ups every day,
right.
or I was slightly tired. But even if I lost only 10 push-ups and I was only having water for 4 days, and I was coming in here to check,
that's true.
Am I losing fat? Am I gaining muscle? Well, actually, that's what I found by surprise. I lost fat and I gained muscle.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, it is really incredible.
Yeah,
and it goes against everything that we think we know.
And we changed, I think, one thing too in the first day. Like it was saying, I was drinking a lot of water back then too, like maybe more than I should, but everybody's different. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I would have I'd have 3 liters during my workout window, which I guess it sounds like a lot now, and then I'd have another 3 liters throughout the day, so 6 liters total. And the first day, I think it said I was dehydrated, and I was like, "There's no way." I was like, "I can't drink any more water." And you're kind of explaining like maybe your cells just aren't using it.
The water,
and because they don't have to, maybe because there's so much going in all the time.
Totally, yeah.
So then I really restricted water just to when I kind of felt a little bit thirsty. So I went from like 3 liters to like a couple of cups a day, and then it said I was more hydrated.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that amazing?
And then I think we added just a little bit of salt, sea salt to the water, and then that made me more hydrated. I was like, okay, that was simple. So I'm doing less and getting better results.
and that's the message. That's essentially the message of intermittent fasting too. Like David just unfolded a 4-day fast, which is, if we're going to break things down into true categories, that's actually fasting. That's like going for more than 24, 36, 48 hours away from food, and then you moved into 4 days. What we're really talking about is just time-restricted eating. It's just containing a meal window. Because a true fasted state doesn't really kick in until there's really no glycogen stores left, your body's really dipping into this place called ketosis, growth hormone is starting to rise, and all your anabolics and repair systems are starting to accelerate and increase. So your metabolism actually increases when you're in a fasted state. But step 1 is just creating a time-restricted eating window. It's just containing your meals. So you're not really fasting until you start doing what David just described, going longer than a couple days. And this is so easy to do. This is literally how we've probably always eaten. I mean, I can't go back in time, but the reality is we do live in a snacking culture where we're eating more often, and we've bought into the idea that eating frequently throughout the day is the message. And there's been study after study showing that 6 meals plus a day is increasing the rate of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular issues. I mean, we know that doesn't work. Yeah. We've proved it. It doesn't work. It's time to adopt what we've always been genetically built for, which is smaller eating windows. And this is essentially what is now being labeled, intermittent fasting. So let's just break down step 1, like maybe step 3. Where do you start? Okay. So first thing to do is basically keep your 3 meals in the day. Don't even get rid of breakfast at this point in time. 3 meals, just say goodbye to your snacks. Step 1.
Simple.
It's pretty simple, right? And I guess step 1A would be make sure that all your meals are within a 12-hour window. Okay. Now step 2 is you just take that 12-hour meal window and you sandwich it down to 9 hours, 10 hours. Maybe you can shrink it down even more. But let's say you get it down to 9 or 10 hours. You can still do your 3 meals in a 9 to 10 hour window. Step 2, no snacks still. Step 3, we shrink that even more. Let's get down to 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, somewhere in there, but now you're only having 2 meals. And that is more of a condensed meal window where you're gonna see better results for improving metabolism, muscle gains, energy, brain function. Basically, you're just not recruiting your digestion to be working all day long. You're giving a longer break so your body can get into more of a repair mode. So that's kind of step 1, 2, and 3 of where to go. And then anything beyond that is generally where we get into what David's doing, which is basically 1 meal a day, or it's a big meal, and it's maybe stretched out over 2 to 4 hours, or depending on the day. And that's mostly what I do most days as well. And so that's basically a 1 meal or 1 meal, sort of an extended meal within a very small meal window that you can do on a regular basis, and it's totally sustainable.
Yeah, I like it. You save time, save money. I don't know how I could lose, and I get more benefit.
Yeah.
But so a common question is, and probably the viewers watching are probably like, but what if I'm hungry? What if I pick those 3 meals in a 12-hour window, but I feel hungry because I'm used to snacking, and I have to perform at work, or I have to perform with my family, I have to perform with my kids, like whatever. So what should they do?
First step is, that's not even true hunger. That's just a craving. That's an insulin dominant state. You're not actually hungry until you start experiencing a fasted state. So the first thing is just to repattern, to unpack what that actually means to feel hungry, and start to change the dialogue. Maybe you're actually thirsty. Maybe you're bored. Maybe it's an emotional connection. Maybe there's something deeper there. It's not going to be true hunger. True hunger, you know what true hunger feels like now, because your body's like, okay, I'm ready for food. It's been like 24, 36 hours. I'm ready to eat. You know, I had a hard workout this morning. Like that's more hunger. You know, and so the first thing to do is to start to unpack that hunger. And more often than not, it's either a craving or it's an emotional attachment to food. It's us wanting to escape our version of reality that we're in at that moment. I mean, and this is where, like, the discussion of joy, which we talked about in the first episode, and pleasure we get from an experience. We get from eating food. It's a dopamine rush, or we get it from having a cigarette, or having alcohol, or some sort of addictive behavior is usually where that pleasure piece is coming from. So we're not actually hungry, we're just craving pleasure.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know most of the guys that are on this seem to have no problem, very minimal. But lots of my female clients often say that they're hungry, or it doesn't work for them. So and most of them, they say they feel hungry. Yeah. It might be a very small percentage where they actually say they feel dizzy. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. Or that they want to kill somebody. So
that was my wife when she first started. Actually.
Yeah. So if you have concerns, maybe just again ask yourself what it is. Is it that I'm actually bored, or is it because I've always eaten at 9 a.m. and at 8:30 then the body's getting ready to eat, or if it's more something else you might think, then maybe I would for sure consult a health professional and ask and get tested and see. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody else.
Yeah, and it's okay that not everyone's going to have the exact same experience. Some women do fantastic on it. Some women don't, and I do see some men who struggle more with it, but it's kind of going back to our first episode. We have to make a choice first. We have to have a reason for why we'd even want to experiment with this. Maybe we do want to lose a little bit of weight. Maybe we do want to improve performance. Maybe we do want to be more alert and have better brain function. Maybe we want to fix our digestion. Maybe we have goals that can be addressed to some degree with implementing this time-restricted eating window. And that's a great little experiment, right? Like that's a great little experience to have, and know that you may not have the same experience as someone else. Like David jumped right in. When I did it, I jumped right in. It was hard for the first few days, just because it was habits, it was emotional, it was all these things. It was changing a habit. Changing a habit inside the brain puts us into a state of fear and worry, and you know, what's funny is that you just have to have an experience, and as soon as I think when people work through those 3 different steps, you'll find that it's just so easy, and people will transition from step 1 to step 3 sometimes they'll just close their meal window so quickly because they realize how easy it is, you know. And I think in a future episode you might do a talk with Dr. Sonia, my wife, on just the impact for women and the hormones and how to do this properly. She's the expert on women's health and understanding the relationship to intermittent fasting or time restricted eating or longer fast for women, and I think that would be a great topic for a lot of the women that are watching.
Yeah, we'll definitely do one of those talks.
So here's another question that a lot of people, that you brought this up, and I think this is so important because so many people are attached to, like, again, building muscle, wanting to improve fitness and all these things, and categorically you probably eat slightly less calories or maybe noticeably less calories than you did before. Have you had any loss, like, over the last, have you trimmed down, or what have you noticed physically?
So I find doing this, I'm able to stay leaner, which I know for myself, I have way more energy when I am leaner, and I just know that for my sake. And
I feel the same way too. Like
yeah,
it's
I just have it's a huge amount of energy, and you could argue the size of muscle might be different, looks smaller, but when I reflect back to old photos of me, it was actually a bloated David.
Totally.
Like my face was more bloated, my muscles were bloated.
Yeah.
So it was a different person, and I believe I was like bloated because in that point of life there was so much inflammation.
Totally.
There was other things going on. I had lots of digestive problems, probably because I was never giving it a break.
Yeah.
And I used to have acid reflux. Well, since I was 16. In the last few years, I've done things to modify my healthy habits to get rid of that. But I realizing that a large portion I think is due to intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
That the foods that I used to not be able to have at all that would really affect my acid reflux only slightly affect it now. It's not like it's completely gone, but I'm off all medication for
That's
that.
amazing. That's amazing.
So
And you brought up such a good point, and I love that because I was the same way. I mean, I look back at videos or different pictures, and I was puffy too. Like it's very noticeable in the face, right? And some of you who maybe have not yet bought into this idea. You're a bodybuilder. You're someone you're hitting the gym all the time. Maybe you like that puffed out look, but you don't know until you actually have an experience of it. And really what it is, it's a tightening up of tissue. David mentioned before, even on his fast, that a lot of his water was stuck outside of his cells, even before his longer fast, despite the fact that he's been doing intermittent fasting for a long time. Well, guess what happened? When you remove food for long enough, the cells were actually more receptive to being hydrated. And so you're actually, you actually you don't need to drink as much water. You just need to, fill yourself up when you either in preparation for exercise or because you're thirsty, and now you're actually getting a proper mechanism to get the water and hydration into those cells where it's actually needed. And this is where minerals and other things can be helpful to really flood those cells. But before, that water was extracellular. It was sitting out, and that's because our water dilutes toxicity. It dilutes inflammatory proteins and other things. And so when you're doing this process, you're actually cleaning the house, you're cleaning clutter, you're getting rid of this inflamed tissue and this inflamed debris that's sitting outside the cell, so the cells can actually gobble up with what they need to.
Yeah.
And it improves performance, brain function, energy, libido, increases testosterone, growth hormone. I mean, you're getting a whole hormonal optimization by doing this.
Yeah.